Let's make this uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Imagine, without realizing it, you've been carrying a curse your entire life. No, not witchcraft, not something mystical or far away. Something worse, something inside you, something that breathes with you, moves with you, and hides as you. It's your shadow, that unseen part, silent, buried, that pulls your strings. The part behind every uncontrollable impulse, every self-sabotaging decision that ruins everything right when life seems to finally be going well. Do you feel it? That presence, constant, unexplained, never gone. Have you ever sat in silence and heard a voice, not someone else's, but yours, whispering things you never chose to believe? You're going to fail. No one really loves you. You're too much. You're not enough. And here's the trap. That voice doesn't hate you. It protects you. But it does so through your wound. And somewhere along the way, you mistook that wound for your identity. You've grown used to walking the razor's edge of emotional collapse without ever knowing why. Repeating patterns that break you, sabotaging what you love, numbing what hurts, pretending everything is fine, while something inside you quietly begs you to stop. Have you ever asked yourself why? Why, when you're alone, you drown in thoughts too dark to share? Why you repeat behaviors that destroy you, even as you watch yourself break? It's not weakness. It's not a lack of willpower. It's a code, a signal you've ignored for so long, it had to start screaming. Because your soul can't keep holding itself together with patches. And now, I'm going to tell you something you might not be ready to hear. If you feel like you never fit in, that everything pierces you too deeply, that you're riding an endless emotional roller coaster, it's because your aura isn't normal. It's rare, intensely rare. And that's a problem. Not for you, but for others. Because people like you are never invisible. They feel you before they see you. Your presence unsettles. It shakes them. Because you carry something ancient. A truth they've buried so deeply, they've forgotten it ever existed. And here's the real mystery. That energy, that sensitivity, that intensity. They're not flaws. They're not system errors. They're alarms. Signals that something vital in you has been crying for attention. And instead of listening, you've medicated it with distraction. You've built routines to avoid thinking, filled your days with noise just to drown out the brutal whisper of your subconscious. But it doesn't go away, because it's not something to eliminate. It's something you must integrate. And the more you reject it, the more it mutates into compulsions, addictions, toxic relationships, chronic anxiety, into patterns you can't explain but can't stop, because they are your shadow trying to save you. And here's the darkest truth. No one ever taught you to treat pain as a message. They taught you to repress it, to hide it behind productivity, to silence it with hollow positivity, to feel shame for carrying it at all. But here you are, and your shadow hasn't left. In fact, it's behind you right now, watching, not to destroy you, but to wake you up. This video, it's not for those who are still asleep. It's for those who, like you, have begun to suspect that what breaks them also guides them. We won't talk about easy fixes or empty motivation. We're diving into what no one wants to face: your cycles, your impulses, your fear of not being enough, your need to please, your hidden anger, your emptiness. We're going to decode the language of your internal chaos, because it's not random, it's precise, it's ancient, it's brilliant. Your pain is not the enemy, it's the compass. So the question is, do you dare to look at what you've always avoided? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then you'll have to choose: keep running from yourself, or turn on the flashlight and descend into the basement where you buried everything real, everything true, everything you. Because only there, beneath the rubble of denial, your true power waits, silent, dark, immense, and starving for truth. Perfect. Let's start this part again. Clean, direct, without poetic fragments or broken lines. Just intensity, straight through, without losing the weight of the moment. A new entry point, but still tightly bound to the truth we've already uncovered. Let's talk about something no one wants to touch: how uncomfortable it is to have consciousness. I'm not talking about morality, not about knowing right from wrong. I'm talking about that raw, relentless self-awareness, the kind that forces you to really see yourself, the kind that won't let you float through life like others seem to do, untouched, unbothered, unshaken. And yes, it's exhausting, because when you see too much, you feel too much. And when you feel too much, you start building walls, mechanisms to keep from collapsing. But here's the problem. Those very mechanisms, they're what end up disconnecting you from yourself. Have you noticed how it plays out? You start acting in ways you don't even understand. You isolate yourself and don't know why. You become addicted to things that don't even bring you joy. You sabotage yourself just when life starts to feel okay again. But behind it all, there's no madness. There's just unprocessed clarity. Because when you carry heightened sensitivity, the world doesn't come at you like it does for others. It doesn't filter in gently. It slams into you, raw, uncut. Every word, every look, every silence. You feel them in layers. And that constant depth, it overloads you. That's where your compulsive patterns come from. Not weakness, excess. You're not broken, you're overloaded. Your mind absorbs more. Your body holds more. Your heart endures more until it can't. And then it begins. The vice, the loop, the escape. But here's the twist. When you finally get that fleeting relief, when you eat, drink, scroll, distract, lose control, your system relaxes and your brain says, that worked. Even if it's killing you. And you, fully aware, know it's destroying you. But you can't stop because your mind doesn't respond to logic when what it craves is emotional relief. That's why the repetition isn't a failure of willpower. It's a response. And the more you fight it with force, the more it slips through your hands. Because what you need isn't more discipline. It's more understanding, more space, more presence, room to feel what you've buried for years. And you know what makes this even harder? While you're inside the storm, the outside world sees you having normal days. Moments of calm, social appearances, it all looks fine. And that makes even you doubt yourself. Am I overreacting? Am I too dramatic? Why does life affect me so much when it's not even that bad? That's the trap, the self-deception that begins when you stop trusting your own pain. But hear this, pain doesn't need permission to exist. It doesn't need a reason. It just is. And that's enough. Now listen closely, because this is the turning point. The more emotionally aware you become, the more sophisticated your ways of hiding from yourself will be. You no longer need obvious vices or visible excesses. Sometimes all it takes is staying busy, taking care of everyone but yourself. Overthinking, intellectualizing your emotions. Telling yourself, I already dealt with that, when really you just buried it under theory. What you do to escape now is more elegant, but just as destructive. And here's the hardest truth of all. Your shadow isn't only made of the things you dislike about yourself. It's also made of everything you're afraid to admit you need. The desires you judge, the anger you dress up as calm, the need to be seen, loved, validated, that you've learned to deny just to seem self-sufficient. And the more you repress that truth, the louder your unconscious fights to get it. It's not that you lack control, it's that you've never given yourself permission to feel without filters, to get angry without guilt, to cry without explaining yourself, to say, I need, without shame. Most of your patterns? They're not addictions to pleasure. They're responses to emotional hunger, needs no one heard, wounds that never fully healed, no matter how scarred over they look on the surface. Do you want to know why breaking the cycle is so damn hard? Because pain, even when it destroys you, feels familiar. It's predictable. It's controllable. But peace, calm, real connection, that feels foreign, uncomfortable, suspicious. That's why, when things finally start to go well, you ruin them. Not because you're stupid, not because you don't deserve it, but because your emotional system, trained over years in survival mode, has learned that good is dangerous. Because peace exposes you. It makes you vulnerable. And the truth is, you don't know what to do with peace. Here's the core of it all. Your system doesn't crave happiness. It craves safety. And if your version of safety was built in chaos, then chaos is what you'll chase over and over again. That's why it's hard to let go. That's why you stay in relationships that harm you. Why you cling to habits, addictions, patterns you hate. Because your body reads familiar as safe, even if it's painful. So no, it's not about willpower. It's about deep emotional reprogramming. And that reprogramming doesn't happen through force. It begins when you stop running. When you finally look, honestly, at everything you've avoided. When you create space inside yourself to feel, without judgment, without masks. When you stop trying to prove something and start asking, what part of me is begging to be seen? What emotion have I denied for so long it turned into pain? What impulse have I judged so harshly that I've accidentally strengthened it? Your sensitivity, your intensity, your ability to feel the world so deeply. These are not flaws. They are not glitches. They are the signs of a mind that had to survive in an unkind world. And now that same mind, that same body, is no longer asking to survive. It's asking to heal, to integrate, to come back to yourself. No filters, no anesthesia. Raw, raging, tender, chaotic, real. Because the most radical act is not pretending to be whole. It's daring to be yourself without numbing the truth. That's the hardest thing, but it's also the only thing that will set you free. And just when you start to realize that the answer isn't to eliminate your impulses, but to understand them, another truth hits you. You're not only fighting the emotions of this moment, you're also carrying emotions that aren't even yours. Invisible emotional inheritances, weights you didn't choose, but that have landed on you because you are the one breaking the cycle. And yes, I know it sounds brutal, but many of the emotions that overwhelm you didn't begin with you. They came from your parents, your grandparents, your roots. And the most shocking part? It's not stored in your head, it's stored in your body. That anxiety that comes out of nowhere, that sadness you can't explain, that guilt for choosing yourself. Sometimes they're not yours. They are unconscious loyalties, rules you inherited without realizing it. It's as if your body is a container for generational pain. And no one teaches you this. It's not in school, it's not in glossy self-help books, but you live it raw every time you try to move forward and something invisible pulls you back. Has this happened to you? You decide to change, really change. You start setting boundaries. You say no for the first time. You take care of yourself. And suddenly it feels wrong, like you're betraying someone, like you're breaking a contract you never signed. That's emotional memory. And it's not just yours. It's your family's story, how they survived, how they repressed, how they endured. You inherited that. And now as you try to live differently, your entire system registers it as danger. That's when most people give up. Not because they're weak, but because they misread the pain. They think it means they're failing, when really it means they're freeing themselves. Change doesn't feel like freedom at first. It feels like betrayal, because you're breaking invisible pacts that held everything in place, even if that everything was sick. That's why healing hurts. Not because you're wrong, but because you're the first in your lineage to do it differently. And that comes with a price. You'll feel alone, misunderstood, like you're losing your mind. But it's not madness, it's rupture, it's evolution, it's emotional cleansing on a level no one sees. But you feel it, you live it, in your skin. So, what do you do when everything you thought you were starts to fall apart? First, understand this. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. The precise moment when your identity begins to rebuild itself. Not from who you were taught to be, but from who you truly are. And this is where another challenge begins. Rebuilding your self-esteem. Not the surface kind built on achievements, likes, or social validation. I'm talking about emotional self-esteem. The kind rooted in deep self-awareness. The kind where you know yourself fully and still choose yourself. The kind that doesn't collapse when you fail. The kind that holds you when no one else does. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most of us carry a self-image that was shaped by how others saw us. Parents, teachers, partners, friends. And over time, that image becomes a prison. We live not from self-love, but from fear of rejection. And that brings us to the next battle, breaking the image. Letting go of the person others expect you to be and becoming the person you truly need. It's not easy, because that image is tangled up with your sense of worth. If you were taught that you only matter when you care for others, when you stay quiet, when you don't cause trouble, when you perform, then every time you choose yourself, you'll feel guilty. But hear this, that guilt, it's an illusion. You owe no one an apology for being you. You are not here to maintain other people's emotional balance at the cost of your own well-being. And if your aura, your energy, your intensity makes others uncomfortable, so be it. You didn't come here to be comfortable. You came here to wake up, to transform, to break cycles. Now, listen carefully, because this speaks directly to your nervous system. You don't need to live on alert anymore. You don't have to anticipate everything to avoid pain. You are not in danger now, but your body doesn't know that yet. That's why it reacts like this. That's why your muscles are always tense, why you sleep poorly, why you eat without hunger, or stop eating from anxiety, because your body equates relaxation with vulnerability. And here's the real work. Re-educate your system. Teach it that it no longer needs to defend itself. And no, this doesn't happen just through meditation or saying affirmations in the mirror. It happens through repeated acts of self-love, through clear boundaries, through moments where you pause and remind yourself, I'm safe. I don't have to run. I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to save anyone. And yes, at first you'll feel guilt, emptiness, maybe even a kind of sadness you can't explain. But that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're cleansing, shedding layers you've carried since childhood, releasing weights that never belonged to you. And when you start to live from this space, something shifts. Your impulses quiet down. Your compulsions dissolve. Not because you've conquered them, but because you no longer need them. You're not running anymore. You're inhabiting yourself. You're listening to yourself. Acting from connection, not from emptiness. And here's what no one teaches you. That when you finally learn how to be with yourself, many of your battles just fade. Your intensity doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes creative fire, clarity, raw authenticity. No longer a weapon that wounds you, but a flame that guides you. And that's when the fight with yourself ends. When you stop seeing your sensitivity as a burden and start seeing it for what it truly is, a door, a compass, a profound way to understand the world and transform it. And that transformation starts with you, right here, right now, in the space where you can no longer pretend, where your soul demands truth, where your body begs for rest, where your story finally wants to be rewritten, not from the wound, but from consciousness. So don't run from it. Don't cover it up. Don't distract yourself. Look at it. Listen to it. Embrace it. Because in the part of you that you fear the most lies everything you need to finally be free, and you are already ready, even if you don't know it yet. And now that we've come this far, before we continue, I want to present something to you. And now, this is where things get truly interesting. Because just when you think you've started to understand yourself, just when the emotional chaos begins to untangle, something deeper surfaces, something most people never discover. Beneath all your suffering, beneath the impulses, the emptiness, the anxiety, beneath your need for validation, there's a force, not the kind they sell you in shiny books or motivational slogans, not some polished image of success or a flawless version of you. No, it's raw, it's real, it's your capacity to hold yourself emotionally, without leaning on approval, without needing to be okay all the time, without demanding perfection from yourself every single day. And when you find that, when you start living from that place, something happens. The spell breaks. Life stops feeling like a race, like something you have to prove. Your relationships shift. Your work changes. Even your breath changes. You're not fighting anymore, not trying to fit in. You start creating space just to exist. And in this world, That is a revolution, but there's one last trap, the most dangerous of all. Thinking that now, because you understand all this, you'll stop falling. That knowledge equals immunity. That you'll never again doubt yourself, sabotage yourself, or run from yourself. Let me tell you the truth. You will fall again. Because growth doesn't make you perfect. It makes you honest. You'll repeat patterns. You'll feel the anxiety return. You'll have days when you don't understand yourself at all. And that's okay. Because now, you're not running. You're witnessing. You see yourself. You choose yourself. Again and again. That's the difference between a life lived in unconscious cycles and a life lived in truth. It's not that everything suddenly becomes easy. It's that you stop demanding perfection in order to feel worthy. You stop earning love, rest, and respect through constant performance. You finally give yourself permission to be human, to be whole, contradictory, intense, and free. And now we arrive at the final truth, one that only those who've made it this far will truly grasp. Your shadow. It's not your enemy. It's not what's holding you back. Your shadow is what's been trying to wake you up. Every time you break down, every time you overflow, every time you reach the edge and feel like you can't take any more, that's not the end. That's your body crying out, stop ignoring me, feel me, let me heal. And when you do, when you choose to breathe instead of numb, when you stay present with what is, even when it hurts, that's when the real revolution begins. That's when your true life starts. So if you've come this far, if every word hit like it was written for you, know this, it's not a coincidence. You're ready. You've reached the edge where something inside you refuses to go back. And if this stirred something in you, if it gave you a clue, a truth, or the emotional punch you needed, then subscribe. But not for me, for yourself. Because here, we won't skim the surface. We'll keep digging, uncovering what others won't even dare to mention. And if you felt this deeply, let me know in the comments. Right, my shadow no longer scares me. That way, I'll know you made it, that you're done running, that you're awake. Now, this is where I say goodbye. Not with a pretty quote, not with a neat conclusion. I leave you with a question, one that will linger long after this ends. Who would you be if you stopped fighting yourself? See you in your next abyss or in your next awakening. You choose.